Sending messages of an explicit nature to an underage girl is wrong. Not a sentence I ever conceived putting at the start of a video, but here we are. The reason I'm saying it is because of a video that came out recently that covers this very subject. It also covers some other subjects, which is what I'm going to be covering here. Because of, well, you'll see, I feel the need to put this message at the start, so from here on in, we all know where we stand, and where we don't. Something the original video fails to do. Kaiju Kim released a video called "The Godzilla Fandom Sucks." In it, she discusses the 5 reasons a fellow YouTuber named Alyssa Carpenter left the Godzilla fandom.
Reason number 1. To be frank, a lot of sexism/sexual weirdness in that crowd. I've been targeted implicitly or directly by people for my sex for far longer than I'd like, which had been an ongoing theme since I was a teenager. Yes, a minor. I received lots of inappropriate messages from men as a kid, was idolized for looking a certain way, and treated/referred to as that girl Godzilla fan despite producing a body of content that didn't revolve whatsoever around my appearance, femininity, etc. The average fan today is volatile, disrespectful, and not at all interested in sincere, polite discourse. She goes on to say, I have no use for people who blindly, mindlessly, and viciously cling to whatever the cool new thing is, and launch ad hominem attacks against anyone, women especially, who disagrees. Reasons 3 through 5 mentions pseudo-intellectuals who try to insist ridiculous things about Godzilla that aren't true so they look virtuous and smart on social media, wanting to be known as herself and not as that girl Godzilla fan, and fandom politics.
The first point is obviously awful, which is why I started this video the way I did. And if Kaiju Kim, or indeed Alyssa, had stopped there, then I wouldn't be saying anything about the list or the video. Unfortunately, they didn't. Not even point 1 gets away without criticism.
I received lots of inappropriate messages from men as a kid, was idolized for looking a certain way, and treated/referred to as that girl Godzilla fan despite producing a body of content that didn't revolve whatsoever around my appearance, femininity, etc.
Alyssa apparently doesn't like being referred to as a girl, specifically that girl Godzilla fan. On its own, this complaint is pretty mild. However, thanks to Alyssa bundling this complaint in with her sexual harassment claims, this nomenclature has become poisoned by association and now carries far more weight than it otherwise would have. Whether deliberate or accidental, this is psychological trickery. I wonder if I'm bringing this up for a reason. On to point 2.
The average fan today is volatile, disrespectful, and not at all interested in sincere, polite discourse. She goes on to say, I have no use for people who blindly, mindlessly, and viciously cling to whatever the cool new thing is, and launch ad hominem attacks against anyone, women especially, who disagrees.
Volatile, disrespectful, blind, mindless, vicious. We imagine these words being applied to someone in particular, or a specific interaction. And if so, they would be understandable. But I completely blanked on my initial watch of this video the words, the average fan. Apparently, most Godzilla fans, including me, are like this. Thanks, Alyssa. What did I ever do to you? Unfortunately, Kaiju Kim then offers her tuppence on the point, and fuck me, what the fuckety fuck. It's like she was reading out of the idiot's handbook to the worst media takes imaginable.
There are so many things happening in the real world that are worth getting angry over. Why are you letting yourself get so angry over something that's not even real?
I mean, there's people starving around the world.
I basically just don't care about stuff like that anymore. Like, I see people getting so worked up about Godzilla runs like a human and Godzilla's spines are different than they were in the last movie, and I'm just like, I don't care.
Like we give a shit.
FYI, if you hear someone say I don't care and they don't substantiate their reasoning, i.e. I don't care about X because it's not relevant to Y, then you should stop paying attention to that person. If they can't be bothered to care about a subject, why should you care about their opinion on it?
Just put Godzilla on a big screen and I'll be happy most of the time.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next products.
I still love Godzilla and I always will, but it's not my life. It's not my life. Why can't people just have civil discussions about anything? Whining and complaining and arguing. Why can't people just have civil discussions about anything? Do I always have a good time? No. But then I just say, okay, that wasn't for me. I appreciate what the film was trying to do, but it didn't suit my personal taste. And then I just move on.
Why can't people just have civil discussions about anything?
If you disagree with someone, don't attack them or their personality. Whining and complaining and arguing. If someone disagrees with you, don't take it as a personal attack. Sending death threats? I can't believe I have to say this. When I sit down to watch a movie, not just Godzilla, but any narrative film, when I sit down to watch a movie, I'm usually just looking to shut off my brain for a couple of hours, enjoy the ride, and have a good time.
You do know you're supposed to turn your brain back on afterwards, right? I want to focus on a couple of things here.
Your opinion is valid, but the opinions of people who disagree with you are also valid. Just put Godzilla on a big screen and I'll be happy most of the time. Okay, that wasn't for me. I appreciate what the film was trying to do, but it didn't suit my personal taste. And then I just move on. Why are you letting yourself get so angry over something that's not even real? I basically just don't care about stuff like that anymore.
Bloody hell, this is a Chris Stuckman take if ever there was one. If everyone did what you are suggesting they do, we wouldn't be able to have civil discussions, Kim. She is actually advocating just sit in front of a screen brain dead while the flashing lights and loud noises play, and the drool pools in our laps. If no one cares about anything, if they have no passion for or interest in anything, they won't have anything to talk about. And if no one is allowed to be wrong, then the discussions would start and end with, I like a thing, I don't like a thing. Both our opinions are valid. Goodbye. Wow. Much discussion. Such dialogue. Also, by the way, opinions can be wrong. Fuck me, how many times must that be said? The people sending Alyssa sexual messages were obviously of the opinion that was fine. Are their opinions valid, Kim? She actually contradicts herself here by saying all opinions are valid, right after saying people need to stop complaining about things. A complaint is a negative opinion about something. Are those opinions not valid, Kim? Along with what she says, Kim also does something that, well, let me show you.
Like we can talk about like the whole death threat thing too. Like that's so corny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like GVK, not GVK. Like I don't like GXK too much. I don't like I don't like Evolved Godzilla, but like sending death threats to Jared Kowalski.
Oh, they didn't send death threats. Well, when Kaiju Kim says, "Oh look, they sent death threats," then puts messages on the screen, and then puts in text at the bottom. Well, these aren't actually death threats, but you know, type message.
Mhm.
But she never clarifies that. She's clearly just shoving the camera in her face and pressing record. She could quite happily have shoved the camera in her face again and pressed record in editing to go, "Oh yeah, by the way, guys, no, that they didn't actually send death threats." This is the problem. Is that straight away everybody here has gone, "Let's talk about the death threats." It's like, but there are no death threats. Not the ones that she's not evidenced any death threats. She's evidenced someone getting angry at the person, like talking. It's somebody's not happy with Godzilla's design, and they've sent a rude message to the guy who designed Godzilla. That's what's actually on screen. But everybody here has just said, "Oh look, let's talk about death threats." And because Kaiju Kim hasn't done her job to actually get the right information across, that's what everybody has heard and everyone's repeating.
If this video was so important, why didn't Kaiju Kim script? If this video is scripted, fuck me, do a writing course or something, or just don't. Just don't. This whole rant from Kaiju Kim speaks to the sanding down of the sharp edges of wit and the enforcement of blandness. It's the verbal equivalent of being drowned in custard. If I were to go through her backlog, would I find a video where she expresses a negative opinion, a criticism, or Yog-Sothoth forbid, a constructive comment? If so, she can shove this entire section of her video up her arse. I might sound like I'm overreacting a bit, but I remember what point 3 was about.
Reasons 3 through 5 mentions pseudo-intellectuals who try to insist ridiculous things about Godzilla that aren't true so they look virtuous and smart on social media.
This is where the anti-intellectualism goes mask off. I, and many others, like to analyse media. It's what you do when you like it, and are interested in it, and don't have some serious medical condition when your brain turns off. We poke and prod at the stories of our time to see what meaning we can extract from them, and judge their qualities as representations of our culture. It's what makes us and so many others fans. You know, fanatics. To bring down an axe on the fandom and separate us into either shallow collectors of stuff or facile attention whores is horrendously ghoulish. Point out when people are wronging you. Don't use it as an excuse to wrong others. I would have thought that would have struck a familiar chord.
The average fan today is volatile, disrespectful, and launch ad hominem attacks, pseudo-intellectuals.
Editing me here. So in my notes, I put down the volatile description, followed by the only care about collecting toys, I was going to say description, insult really. And in my head, I thought Kaiju Kim had read both of those out. So it'd be a nice bit of audio to sort of link together. But when I went to get the clip, I realised Kaiju Kim completely ignored the toys comment. It's very obvious in the description that she puts on the screen, but she doesn't verbalise it, which is odd because it's the start of that point. Then I remembered the thing I pointed out earlier in the video, which is her saying, oh, I don't care about Godzilla that much, and then all the toys in the background. This is only made funnier in conjunction with the whole, she talks about death threats, puts a visual correction on the screen, but doesn't make a verbal one, so people just get that wrong, because people are paying attention more to what she's saying. So is she deliberately not saying the bit about the toys because she doesn't want the association that comes with the fact that Alyssa is complaining about this? Which just makes my whole point that I'm trying to make in this video even stronger, because she's avoiding negative association that she doesn't think she deserves. Ah! I won't bother with points 4 and 5 because it looks like they contradict each other. Also,
I completely respect and support Alyssa's decision to step away from the fandom.
do you want to throw some thoughts and prayers in there for good measure? If you didn't support and respect her leaving, what would you do exactly? Tell her she has to return? Go round her house and duct tape her to her gaming chair? That bit of bullshit aside, I want to return to the name calling in point 1. By lumping in people calling her a girl with the claims of sexual harassment via messages, Alyssa made the girl label seem far worse than it actually is. In the same way, by complaining about people who like to complain, in the same video as reporting sexual harassment and paedophilia, people like myself who analyse Godzilla and other media are being associated with sexual deviance. And I ain't having it. I shall not feel guilt via unwarranted association. This mostly happens due to Alyssa's list and Kaiju Kim's video being vague. Also, neither being well written, or potentially not being written at all in Kim's case.
I am getting pretty sick of y'all. I'm kidding. Obviously, I'm talking about the crappy side of the fandom that I'm done with. This year's G-Fest will probably be my last. Honestly, the only reason I'm going this year is because of the few good people in this fandom.
If names had been named, those responsible for these, let's face it, crimes could be brought to light, and if not punished, then ostracized from the fandom, turned into examples of what not to do and how not to behave. Instead, Alyssa's list jabs blindly out at us, and Kaiju Kim waves a hand in our general direction. Instead of punishing criminals, they are blaming the crowd of innocents. Do they mean to lay the blame for Alyssa's suffering at our feet? Hopefully not. But by being so vague and so sweeping with their statements, they might as well have. And as I've shown, these statements are already having an effect.
Unfortunate as that is. And I think that's why, again, it's important to have discourse like this.
Yeah. This is the thing. We're sitting here talking about this. This is the sort of thing that we say, look, this is the positive thing that comes out of analysing films, about discussing things. And to Kaiju Kim's point, she does say, why can't people have civil discussions? To which the answer is, we do all the time.
Yeah.
But,
do that.
She makes, because she hasn't scripted, because she hasn't properly thought about what she's saying here. Clearly, she's just ranting into the microphone and whatnot. The point 2, where she talks about that people are too volatile and like they make ad hominem attacks, and then you shouldn't be complaining so much when there's terrible things in the world. I don't care so much about stuff. It creates a false dichotomy of there are people who just enjoy things, and there are people who are volatile, spiteful, mindless. It just creates this false dichotomy, which again is in the same video as something very terrible, which creates a bad association. It's this video this video can do some positive, and I imagine there is some positive stuff coming out of this. There's also quite clear that this video could do quite a lot of damage, not just in terms of just annoying people, but also in informing people of things that just simply aren't true. I've said it before. Lies can become truth regardless of fact. And if stuff like this is shared around without discussing it, defending it, talking about why it's wrong, then people are just going to share this around and go, look at how terrible all these people who like to discuss things are.
I want to finish by making 3 things very clear. Point 1. The initial subject matter of Kaiju Kim's video is steeped in emotion, and rightly so. Chances are, people will get upset with me criticising Kaiju Kim's video based purely on their emotional responses to it. To which I say, you can't let emotions override basic critical thinking, or you end up spouting bullshit like she did. Not to say emotionality doesn't have its place. I'm currently using it to show how Godzilla 98 is better than Shin Godzilla, and Godzilla King of the Monsters teaches us to have balance in all things, with Mark and Emma Russell being the actual epitomes of emotional and analytical reactions.
It's not all math, Emma. Some things you can't control.
And there are some things that you can't run from.
It's almost like these films can be more complicated than at first glance, and provide meaningful content for us to examine, Kim. And Alyssa, let's be fair. One person was subjected to horrible experiences, and that is terrible. That does not give them an excuse to sully the concept of bloody hell thinking about things. Fuck me. Point 2. I have not watched any of the reply videos to Kaiju Kim, specifically so my opinions are untainted and straight from the tap. My intention is to go through them and produce a follow-up video if there is anything to be added. Given some of the positive feedback I've seen pop up on Twitter, I hope there will be. Point 3. Kaiju Kim's video is shit. The most meaning in it is from Alyssa's list, and her own additions are anywhere from painful to dangerous. In my subjective opinion, I think she should have been far more analytical and stuck to the facts of the matter, saving us all a lot of headaches. Oh, and one more thing. Alyssa's list, and by proxy Kaiju Kim's video, started with the complaint about being referred to by their gender and lumping it in with the sexual harassment claims to make it sound worse. Kaiju Kim's video ends with this.
Honestly, the only reason I'm going this year is because of the few good people in this fandom. I am very much looking forward to seeing my boys, you know who you are.
Yogg-Sothoth, burn this knowledge from my brain and give me peace.